Okay.
This is my story.
This is my story.
This is my story.
Now without the nod.
This is my story.
This is my story.
This is my story.
Yay.
This is my story.
This is my story.
This is my story.
This is my story. My name is Doug Allen. I've been attending Antioch Christian Church here since probably the late 80s. I used to be a deacon. I've helped out in VBS, and I've volunteered many other ways. But I'm probably best known for being the drummer in the band here at the church. I'm one of the initial founding fathers of our praise band, so to speak. So my mom is Marty Allen, attends the church. My dad's Keith Allen. He passed away about 4 years ago. I have 4 kids, yes, and the last one just moved out, so it's the empty nest syndrome. They're still bringing their laundry over, so we still see them quite a bit. But well, it's kind of a long story. Back in the late 80s, like I said, I was in college, and of course cell phones weren't there. I was not raised in the church. I knew there was a God, but I did not know God. And then when I was about 3.5 hours away, and like I said, cell phones weren't around, so I'd make it a point to call my parents every Sunday night. The weekends I wasn't home. But they informed me one time that they were going to start going to church. And church wasn't my thing, so I told them that's fine, but when I come home on weekends, don't expect me to go. But I ended up going when I came home on weekends because it mainly meant a free lunch afterwards before I had to go back. But I started attending church, and then when I came home, and then I found out how nice the people were, how great the people were here. They found Antioch. They told me, we found a church, so we started coming here, and one thing led to another. Every time I was home, and I came to church more than just the free lunch afterwards, but I started finding God, ended up being baptized in this church, ended up finding Tammy, my wife, and married in this church. So it's been a long road, but it's been a fulfilling road. This is a great church to attend. It's, one big loving family. When my mom's dad passed away, just the way the church reached out to her and just how nice they were. And I wouldn't say that was the defining moment, but that's what sticks out in my mind that I remember so much, that, just the way that my mom and dad were treated when my mom's dad passed away. My favorite hobby is playing the drums. I enjoy doing it. Matter of fact, if I'm ever gone on a Sunday, I really miss it. 4th grade band started, elementary band, and I wanted to play drums. And I think my mom and dad, they were real supportive of me. I don't think they wanted me playing the drums, but they were supportive of it because that's what I wanted to do, and just developed from there. I enjoy watching sports, mainly baseball, Cardinals, Boo Cubs. Tammy and I do have a camper down in Shelbyville, so during the summer months and camping seasons, we find us there most every weekend. Dangerous. I don't know anything about computers, but I try and go into them, and so a lot of times I'll maybe do worse than good, but I would say it's a comedy. As far as who would play me, that's a tough one. I don't really know who would play me. I would say back to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, just the history there. And there's a 20-minute video that they show before you actually go out on site that I learned more in that 20 minutes I did in any history class. Road rage. Do I have road rage? Well, I don't show it that much, but stupid drivers I just can't stand. If you're not obeying the laws, if you're driving in the left lane down the interstate for 30 miles, I'm going to pull up on your bumper and keep honking until you move over. That's me. I don't like stupid drivers. I am retired from the Decatur Police Department after 26 years of service. The last 14 years, I was the police officer at MacArthur High School here in Decatur. That was a really rewarding job. I really enjoyed helping out with the kids, with the schools, and it was a great experience for me, and I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat. But I retired 4 years ago, like I said, after 26 years of service, and I've started substitute teaching here in Mount Zion at the high school. So I've been doing that the past 4 years, and I'm going to continue to keep doing that for a while. One thing that does stick out, there was a girl that she was a constant runaway. And her mom would always call and ask for help, and I'd always go out and try and find her. And one time I did find her and just had a nice little talk with her about, we did talk about God, and we talked about, the dangers of running away and the issues and what could become. And I don't know if it was my talk with her or if she just finally realized but she ended up staying home, and now she's got a very successful job. Her mom's reached out to me a couple times since then and just, has told me how successful she is and how great she's been doing. So that's one thing that sticks out. There's ways you just walk around the school, like at MacArthur, we'll say. When I was there, I would eat lunch in the cafeteria with the kids, and I would pray before I would eat. And, kids would see me that. Sometimes kids would come and sit around me and pray too, and it wasn't out loud. It was quietly to ourselves. But so that was one thing, that I would eat lunch with the kids. And I always carried a New Testament on me. It was always in my pocket. I had that with me every day. I had the uniform on. Yeah, there's one time I remember I was on third shift, and there was a guy inside of a house, and there's something called the 21-foot rule. If a guy has a knife, he can be on top of you if he's within 21 feet before you have a chance to get your gun out and fire it at him. And so there was a guy, he had assaulted his girlfriend. He was standing up in a house, and I was near the front door. The porch was kind of higher than where I was standing, and it was only about 10 feet away. And this guy came running out with a knife at me, and I was able to draw my gun and point it at him, quicker than I still don't know how I got it out that fast right now. And luckily I didn't have to fire. I never had to fire my gun, which is right there's God's work for me. But I had to pull it a few times. But that right there there's no way I should have been able physically to get my gun out that quick, to recognize what was going on and get my gun out that quick. Just changing my mind about coming to church, many, many years ago. That was a big door that is opened. A lot of times God opens doors for you. You don't realize it then, and you may never realize it, but it was God that opened those doors for you, or closed doors too. Right now he's teaching me that, to keep him first, make him priority, praying every night, just, that what would Jesus do? And then if I'm stuck in a situation, well, what would God do here? What would God want me to do? I am on my phone quite a bit, but I'm no longer looking at the raunchy joke places or just people who have had a bad influence. I've kind of shied myself away from them, especially over the internet. My dad, when he was alive. My kids always talk about remembering Dad. His name was Keepaw for the grandkids. That was started with my nephew, who was the oldest grandchild. He didn't understand why he had to call him Grandpa when everybody else was calling him Keith. So it's a mixture of Keith and Grandpa, Keepaw. And so every other grandkid kind of caught on to that, and that's his name. He was more my best friend. Every Sunday morning, we're out on the golf course. We left. We'd mess up a shot, and it just, we'd laugh so hard, and just the things we did together. Once or twice a year during the summer, we'd always see a Cub Cardinal game. But we made it a point to go up to Wrigley Field once a year. There was a barbecue place up in Evanston called Merle's. One of my trainings I had for the police department, I used to be what's called a traffic car, which on third shift, my main job was to handle accidents and that type of stuff. So they sent me to a specialized school to investigate accidents, especially fatalities. And up in Evanston, I found this restaurant. It was called Merle's. It's since closed down, but so Dad and I would always go up to eat at Merle's, and watch a Cub Cardinal game at Wrigley on the way back. We always joked about the Merles was so good that we just happened to watch the ball game on the way back. So the trip was actually for Merles. My 21st birthday, for a birthday present, they gave me a Bible. That's not something you think a 21-year-old would want. Matter of fact, I wasn't expecting it. But he wrote out a paragraph saying, do not be embarrassed to carry this. Do not be embarrassed to read this. Do not be embarrassed, and that stuck. Patience. I mean, right now, Clark's 5, so he's the oldest, so he's in that age now where he's full of energy, running around everywhere and always asking questions. His favorite line right now is, hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? So just patience. And the other two are not quite talking yet, so we haven't quite got to that stage. And got a 4th one on the way. Praying for a girl. As long as it's healthy, we don't care, but praying for a girl. Funny you should ask that, because a year ago, I learned very quick that you can't argue with God. I had a serious heart attack May 26th last year. I was speaking at a friend's funeral, and I just felt this pressure. I'd been feeling fine the whole morning, feeling fine, no problems at all. But then as I got up to speak, I kind of feeling a pressure in my chest, but it was hot up there. It felt like the spotlights were right here, and I was sweating, and so I just felt like I was getting overheated. I went down and sat with Tammy for the rest of the funeral service, and I wasn't feeling any better. So I got up and went to the front foyer. It was in a church, and a lady came up to me. She says, "You don't look right. Do you need something?" I said, "Well, I just want to go watch. Is there a place where this funeral's being put on a live screen somewhere? I can just go sit and relax in some cool air and just..." And she goes, "Yes, go down this hall and turn right. And there's a live stream in their fellowship hall area." Well, down the hall and to the left, the people who were doing the funeral, the church knew it was going to be a crowded funeral. It was very hot that day, so they had Decatur ambulance people just sitting there, kind of like a little makeshift hospital. So I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm going to get emotional, but walking down the hallway by myself, I'm just going to go down, relax in this fellowship hall. A voice in my head, like somebody's walking next to me. Go down the hall, turn left. No, I'll be okay. I'm arguing with this voice in my head. No, go down, turn left. I said, no, I'll be fine. I'm just need to sit and relax. I got to the end of the hall, and that voice said, turn left now. I turned left, and I told the ambulance people there what happened. They put me on a heart monitor and said, we got to go now. And they figured out I was having a heart attack right then and there, and a week later had a quadruple bypass. But yeah, don't argue with God. You'll lose. When I was in the hospital, I was at peace. I honestly feel I've done everything I could. I'm sure there's a lot more I could do, I can do, I will do. But I was at peace. If I died on that operating table, then that was it. I was ready. I wasn't wanting to, don't get me wrong, but I was at peace that whole time I was in the hospital. Nobody knows if they're going to heaven or not. That peace could have been false for me. I don't know. God didn't take me for a reason. So either he wasn't ready for me or I wasn't ready for him. Who knows? But that you could mess up. I've done some bad things, especially my teenage years, and just God always forgives. So, I haven't got out and murdered anybody or anything that bad, but there's some things that, I'd be embarrassed to talk about that I did as a teenager or, getting a little older, that God loves you anyway. He has plenty of forgiveness, and that'll always be true.